What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining Going Public Podcast. I'm your host, RJ. Tonight, I have a special guest, a close friend who it would seem that I've known my entire life, but I haven't. But as seasons change, new people come into your life. And this guest tonight has come into my life at a very crucial time and has walked me through life, but also allowed me to walk him through life. And so tonight, our guest, David Poppy Martinez, is here in studio. David, thank you so much for coming.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I am so excited to have you. I know this has kind of been in the works for a little bit. I know you're kind of one of the ones that just likes to kind of not share everything. And so like when you post stuff at night, I'm sure everybody was chiming in, oh my gosh, you're going to be on the pod. I got a lot of hits saying, dang, he's going to be on. So I'm excited. I know our conversations are always great. Tonight is just going to be one of those, is we talk about everything we always talk about.
Yep.
And so kind of introduce yourself, what you're about, and then we'll kind of just chime in.
All right. Well, actually, I've been here in Dallas for a couple of years now. So
Okay.
I've been serving the Lord for nearly 35 years.
I saw that.
October will be 35 years. And it's been an amazing journey with God. I've had some dark seasons, but I've also had some seasons where I've seen the hand of God just move in a very miraculous way. So I'm involved in my church and serving different teams, which you know.
Yeah.
And I'm very passionate about speaking to young men and empowering them, because I think that sometimes we have these young men that just in general, not necessarily in the church, but in general, that they meander through life not having any direction. And I endeavor, in this particular season of my life, I endeavor to be the person that I wish I had when I was in my 20s.
Okay, we're going to get in that for sure. So as you know, kind of through some of our conversations lately, you were actually the first person that my kids and I met when we attended church. And little did you know that was that was a hard season. I didn't want to go to church. I was hurt. I was broken, but I knew I needed to be in the church. And PR and I have been friends since we were 14 years old, but I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to kind of like just sit there and not be seen. And when the kids and I walked in, you were the first person that greeted us, and you sat us in our seats. And
you got a little closer, right?
we did.
Yeah,
Because you're VIP, right?
Yeah.
So we got those seats, but little did you know that because of your greeting, that would become the face that I saw as a familiar face when I came to pick the life group that I wanted to be a part of. And what I tell people when I talk about you is that life group, when I went in there the very first day, I'm new to Dallas. I had decided I'm not going to tell anybody my ugly. I'm going to have a whole new wardrobe change. My whole character is going to change. Nobody's going to know my ugly, my past.
Right.
But what you did during that Connect group season, the first day I went in there, instantly opened up my heart, because I was welcome to transparency with safety. I've been transparent before, but safety wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And so what you did, you opened up the doors for transparency, vulnerability, but also safety. And so that first day, if you remember, I shared my whole thing. I'm RJ. I've been to prison, and now I'm here in Dallas. But there was no weird faces. I was greeted with love and just friendship. And instantly, I think that's what birthed our friendship. And since then, we've been able to talk about some crazy stuff, some good, some bad, the ugly, right. And also pour into men. And so I want to just get into that. Okay. So mentoring young men, you said, like, how did that start? Why did it start? Like, what's your heart behind it?
The heart behind it is knowing some of the dark seasons that I've gone through. I guess the catalyst for it, what drives me is the relationship, or lack thereof, the relationship that I had with my dad. And my dad was present, but emotionally checked out. Okay. There's a story behind that, maybe for a different time, but I grew up not feeling that my dad valued me or that my dad loved me.
Okay.
There's that huge age gap between myself and my older brothers. There's about 13-year gap. And so my dad was younger when my older brothers, were born, and they were being raised and everything. But then I come because I'm the surprise baby.
Okay.
My dad was 39 when, we got
Dang.
another one on the way.
Right.
And so even though dad was an amazing provider, okay,
Mhm.
he was always present. He was never out doing, crazy things, never physically, verbally abusive to my mom or to myself and my siblings. However, I just didn't feel I could do anything to get his approval,
Mhm.
or I wanted to hear my dad say that he was proud of me, and I'd never heard that.
Wow.
So I went through life, feeling an emptiness. And so that's my passion behind, what I do, is because I've allowed God to do a healing work in my life.
Mhm.
And because of that, I operate and function in the way that, hey, if God did it for me, I know he can do it for others. But we have to be willing to pay the price. And that's one of the hard things that many won't do,
Yeah.
because you have to sometimes go to a dark place. And I had to. I had to, RJ, because there was a time that I was so frustrated. I'm a Christian. I'm
Mhm.
serving the Lord, active in my church, but I was a mean, angry, bitter, unforgiving person. That stemmed from the anger that I had, the disappointment, the hurt that I had towards my father. And
Wow.
everybody else in life was the collateral damage of something that refused. I refused to address it and acknowledge it. And it got to a point one time that I was so just sick and tired of how I was,
Mhm.
um, and how I was towards people. And I remember I got in my car. This at that time I was living down in Waxahachie, and I remember I got in my car late at night, and I drove down Interstate 35 South, heading towards Hillsboro. Not with any place in mind to go. I'm just driving,
Mhm.
and I pull off on the side of the road, and I just began to just sob, and I just cried. It's like, God, why am I like this? Why am I
Wow.
this way? Why do I act and react the way I do? And as clear as day, the Holy Spirit asked me, "Do you want to be healed?"
Mm.
And I'm like, "Yes." And then begin to remind me of certain things of my childhood. And then I'm like, okay, anything but that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then once again, it's like, "Do you want to be healed?" And I said, "Yes," because and RJ, I'm like, I'm on the side of 35 and I'm just crying like a baby, dude, ugly cry. And it was at night. So, and I'm like, "Yes." He said, I said, "Then I have to take you through this journey."
Wow.
And that journey took time, but it resulted with me uh, visiting with my dad. And I think this was probably back in 2007. I made a trip down to South Texas, and and I addressed it with my father.
How was that? Because like, Hispanic culture, um, I've learned it's almost inappropriate to challenge your authorities, your dads, your grandparents or whatever. So how was that? Like, how did you encourage yourself to go and say, "Hey dad, let's talk."
Okay, that was the last time I made the drive down to South Texas, and I'm so glad that I did, because on that trip, um, the Lord was preparing my heart.
Mhm.
Like, I'm sending you as a messenger. I'm like, What do you mean?"
Yeah.
And it's like, You are going to be my mouthpiece." So then I began to address certain things, and it's one of those things, RJ. If you know, you know. But when you're hearing your voice, but it's not coming from your mind. It's not coming from I'm. This isn't me
Yeah, yeah,
talking.
yeah. I
It
get
is
no,
me,
I know
but
exactly what
it's
you're talking
not.
about.
And I began to point out some things with my parents about their marriage,
Mm.
and and dad was sitting there, and mom was sitting there, and mom was like sobbing, and then my dad was trying to interrupt, not challenging me or anything like that, but he was trying to explain himself. And I'm like, Daddy, don't. I said, to disregard what I say is to disregard what the Holy Spirit wants to say. I said, so let me finish.
Mhm.
And then I just began to share certain things. And I told him, so you remember back when? I said, when I was about 9 years old, and I gave him some examples, and one of them was when I was 9 years old, I started taking piano lessons.
Okay.
And my older brother played piano. So he worked a couple blocks up from where we lived. And on Thursdays, he would always stop by for dinner. And as soon as he rolled up, if I'm there playing my little exercises, my piano lessons, and as soon as my brother pulled up, he's like, "Oh, I want to hear your brother play. I want to hear."
Oh,
So then, you know, get my little book, get off the bench, go around. And then Fred comes down, he plays, some hymns and stuff like that. And Dad's just, oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I love it, Fred. Play something else. And I'm just sitting there like, I was just practicing.
wow.
So it wasn't, and that's the thing, it wasn't intentional.
Hmm.
But as a 9-year old kid, it was like rejection,
Absolutely.
and it's like, don't you want to hear me play? I know it's nothing compared to him, but as a kid, like, gosh, I'm not good enough.
Am I not good enough?
Yes.
Right.
And so I gave him that example, and he's like, and his nickname for me, he would call me Bebe. He said, "But Bebe, I never know." I said, "Daddy, I know." And after that conversation, I told him, I said, "Daddy," so I was like, "Look," I said, and I looked at him, RJ. And this is at this point, I'm in my 40s, bro.
Okay.
And I looked at my dad, eye to eye, face to face, man to man. And I told my dad, "But you know what, Daddy?" I said, "I forgive you."
Wow.
And that was a weight that came off of me because I've been carrying this for decades. And the thing is, it's like I said, I'm serving in the church, doing all this. I'm like, but I was angry, bitter, unforgiving. And I was like, in order for me to break free from this mess and the person that I am, this is what I have to do. So everything else, like I said earlier, everyone else was the collateral damage of how I treated them,
Hmm.
how I spoke to them, the aggressive tone. I could go off on somebody. Now, I mean, I'll set it off and not feel bad about it, RJ. And that's the sad thing.
That's a dangerous place.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
tell me what you said to your dad. You said
that
what?
no, I told him, I said, "Daddy, I forgive you. I forgive you for not, it's almost like I'm just here's the thing, RJ. Forgiveness is not so much for the person in as much as it is for you.
Absolutely.
Because I am willing to cut this thing that has me bound. Because unforgiveness is like cancer, brother. It'll eat you up from the inside. You're all fine
Hmm.
from the outside. You're functioning, you're living life, you're doing your job, family, friends, relationship, career, all that. And the inside, dude, it's just eating you away.
Wow.
And I'm like, and I was tired of that. So that's why I operate and live in the freedom and the confidence that I do, because that was the catalyst. And then everything else started to, God began to show some things to me. It's like, hey, this is what I want you to do, and so I had to learn to forgive. And one of the things that I've learned in this journey, especially when it comes to forgiveness, is that it takes more effort, to hold an offense than it does to extend forgiveness.
That triggered my heart because I too uh, desire just to be a bridge for men. Some younger than me, some even older than me, some my same age. But you said something that I believe tons of men battle, and that's that statement, "Am I good enough?" And so I believe a lot of men struggle and walk around life with that constant echo in their mind, "Am I good enough?" And so we will over extend ourselves to try to please people that don't even matter when the root is really a mother issue or a dad wound. But we try to facade that with, "Oh, I'm wearing nice shoes. I got a nice ride. I got tons of girls." So when you said that, can we dive into that a little bit deeper?
Sure.
So, Dad, am I good enough? David's thinking, am I good enough? So go into that a little bit if you can.
Um, John Eldridge in his book, Fathered by God,
Okay.
and then
You want to go there already. Okay. All right. Let's get
so
comfortable.
so he does mention that there's two things that men, uh, I think they seek. Number one is that, am I good enough,
Absolutely.
and do I have what it takes?
Mhm.
We want to be the beloved son. The way God has created us is to accept love. Okay, you have children.
Yeah.
Okay, when they were babies, you would just love on them and hold them and caress them and everything, and the kids, they can't communicate it. but
Mhm.
they receive it. It puts a smile on their face. They
Yeah.
giggle, and they get giddy to see dad, and all that. So to hear your voice and how you play with them and everything. So it children have that instinctive, innate ability to receive love.
Okay.
And when we don't have that, we sort of like, we're lost,
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that we fail to do is that you touched on it, that we use this facade.
Mhm.
I got the shoes, I got the bling, got the career, six figures,
I got the
and
girls, right?
yes, I got
Yeah.
the girls, and all that is in some instances, not all the time. In some instances, that is somebody wanting to fill the void that's deep down inside
Mhm.
because they didn't get the affirmation. Okay,
Yeah.
I've learned, RJ, that the three A's that every child needs from their father, but especially the man child, especially the son,
Okay.
to always get the affirmation, the attention, and the affection from his father.
Wow.
Okay. And that is like, those are so essential.
Mhm.
The affirmation is so important. You look at Jesus when he was baptized, okay? The
Mhm.
heavens opened up to him and he heard a voice from heaven to say that this is my son and who I am well pleased. After that, he goes, led by the Spirit, he goes into the wilderness to be tempted.
Right.
And you know how the story goes, if you are the son of
Right.
God, turn these stones into bread. If you do this, and if I'm like, he already had the affirmation from his dad,
Wow.
God the Father. So I don't care what you say. Well, if you're so and so, like, no, no, I know who I am. Okay.
Right.
So you can go ahead and say whatever you want to say. You can question me, you can question my identity, but no, I know who I am because of who my father says I am. And
Yeah.
when we don't get that in the natural, then we start trying to get that affirmation from other people.
Mhm.
I was so twisted, RJ. When I was in college, I was very active in student government. And because of the void that I still had in my life at that time, my college years, I got really involved in student government. I was the junior class president, senior class president. I was the student congress vice president, and chairman of different committees. Everybody on campus knew who David Martinez was.
Mhm.
And whenever I did something, and from the stage or whatever, like, we want to thank David, and it was like,
Yeah.
that was like a drug for me.
I
I
get it.
wanted to hear the applause of man. Now that I'm in a place where some people say, like, dude, you should do this. You should. And I'm very careful because I know I don't seek that anymore.
We have conversations about that, right?
Yes.
When I try to push you into like, "Hey, do it," and you're like, "Well,
When the time, we'll
w
see.
we'll see if the
When the
time
time
is
is
right."
right.
Yeah.
See, you ready
Man,
now?
so I started getting just a little bit choked up in that, as you were talking, it reminded me of my high school days. Um, I got kicked out of the house when I was a senior
Mm,
and had to go, live with my youth pastor, then my uncle for a little bit, and, part of it, I was working and mom and dad, they needed help financially, and I was too stubborn to be easily, "Yeah, whatever, y'all provided for me my entire life." No, I wanted that money. I worked, I wanted it, and so, dad being, the final say in our house, kicked me out, and the next week, was in my high school career, this was the biggest game I've ever played in. We were playing against the number 2 team in the state, which was also the number 2 team in the nation, and, we end up winning 2-0, and, I scored both goals, and I couldn't celebrate because when I looked up in the stands, my dad wasn't there,
mm.
right? And so I thought I was good, and all my teammates were coming up to me, "Oh my gosh, we won, we did all this stuff." But the one person that I wanted to be there, the one who gave me that affirmation, the one that gave me my identity, the one who I'm named after was not in the stands. And so I remember that feeling. And so when you started saying that, it reminds me of how, you and I both mentor men, but sometimes when they first start talking, you can tell that the absence of the father is truly there, right? Like I remember my first life group, we asked this one guy, the youngsters said, "My parents have been married to each other multiple times. My barber taught me how to shave, and YouTube taught me how to be a man. And I question, am I good enough?" That was the first opening statement this guy said to me at life group, and it ate my lunch. And so I know you and I desperately have a desire to see men become everything they're supposed to. And I know we addressed an issue that possibly needs to be addressed, not just in the church, but just in men, where sometimes us men, we try to overflex, we try to put on a show so that people don't know that we're breaking in silence. And so maybe that is going and huddling around a bunch of women, or being involved in so many things so that we don't address those things. And I know you're walking a couple of men through life right now that don't have a father. So I know we're talking about dads, and I didn't think we were going to go here, but I want to go here because it's so important. And you're the right person, as I truly believe, and many men in our church and just in our circle believe that you are the catalyst to fathering and mentoring all types of men, right? And so kind of get into that, like what you think, what you think young men can be doing to address those issues that we have been taught through society or culture. Suck it up, don't cry. If dad's not there, screw him, whatever. But then we walk around broken.
Mhm.
So kind of address that if you don't mind.
I think the first thing is to admit you're wounded. We don't admit that.
Mm,
Okay. We don't admit that something's missing deep down in the core of who we are.
mm,
Everything's a facade, dude. You know, it's like I don't care how many women you're dating. I don't care how much money you make, because all that is a symptom of the illness. And the thing is, it's the brokenness, it's the loneliness of not knowing who you are.
mhm.
You know, I've got 100 verses on my phone right now
Yeah.
that say that this is who God says I am. Okay.
Mhm.
I go through those verses. I'm like, and it's it reaffirms, it builds me up, it keeps me in check. It helps me
Yeah.
understand who I am. This right here, the book of tells me who I am. And but a lot of guys don't. They fail to address the fact. No, I'm good,
Right.
dude. I kid you not, bro. I get so tired. No, I'm good. I'm good. You know, and it's like,
You
no,
know
you're
what will
not.
piss me off is when I will approach a guy and just greet him, bro, how are you? Oh, God is good. Yeah, he is. But how are you? Like, and I
Yes,
think that we're taught that, like almost to a default,
the
like,
church culture has done that to us.
yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta keep my suit jacket up, because if it's not, you'll think that something's wrong with me. Therefore, I'm not good enough to sit where I sit or have an influence where I have an influence. So, um, Judah Smith says something that I'll never forget. Once you know who you are, you can never unknow it. Right. Once you know who you are, you can never unknow it. There's a story. Noah, my 16-year-old, he was taking I think it was star test or whatever in first grade, and the teacher prepped him and prepped the entire class. And they're like, okay, this is our first one. Get ready. We're gonna fail, and that's okay. Noah, if y'all know Noah, is a little bit more confident than most, which I love. But he told the teacher, he goes, "I'm not. I'm smart." And she says, "Well, okay, but scale back a little bit." And he says something that I'll never forget. He says, "But my dad tells me I'm smart, and so I'm going to pass, and I'm smart." And if you can see, I have a tattoo. What I've told the kids ever since they're born: you're strong, you're smart, you're loved. Once you understand that and you believe it, you can never not believe it, right? And so it's like that identity is
Yes.
Noah truly believed he was smart because the father told him he was smart. And so he said that even in the midst of, hey, you're all gonna fail, Noah says, I ain't, right? Because my dad says I'm smart,
Exactly.
right? 2004, you went through by far the hardest season and hardest year of your life, dealing with tons of loss and just a dark season. And I want you to get into that, and I'll ask some questions that I've known that you've shared with me about, but let's just get into that. 2004, walk us through that season.
2004, January, one of the associate pastors of the church that I was serving at had passed away. My best friend at that time, roommate, my ministry partner, we did ministry together, my ride or die, was killed in a motorcycle accident.
Mm,
Not here in Texas, but in California. So My first trip to California was to bury my best friend. That was a
Mhm.
hard, very hard trip to make.
Mhm.
And and then just I've been in the car business for nearly 24 years, and at the time, the dealership I was working at, one of the managing partners,
Mhm.
I get in on Monday and say, "Hey, I'm like, did you hear the news about Mr. Fisher?" I'm like, "No." It's like, he had a heart attack and passed away on Friday. I
Goodness.
had a heart attack that night at home. One of the guys that I sung with at church, his wife passed away. One of the choir members was killed in a car accident.
Goodness.
Former coworker was found dead in his apartment. One of the girls from church that I knew had passed away in her sleep, and they found her dead in her apartment. My cousin committed suicide. So it was like, as
What's that
one,
count?
hmm?
Is that like 9? How many people was it?
It was about nine or ten
I'm trying to, like,
altogether.
keep up, but
Yeah,
yes, goodness, okay.
and so I fell into a really dark place, and it was one of the things that my friends told me. He said, "Dude," he said, "it's like death is all around you."
Wow.
And the death of Kyle, who was my best friend, that was the I've lost both of my parents. Okay, I've lost my mom, I've lost my dad, and I didn't grieve for them as much as I did for Kyle,
Mhm.
and so that was a really downward spiral for me. We did ministry together. That's what I missed. We were seeing lives changed,
Yeah.
for the glory of God. And now my partner in ministry is gone, and I felt an emptiness in me.
Mhm.
And I remember after I got back from his funeral, uh, 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, I call his cell phone just to hear his voice on his voicemail greeting. And it wasn't until September of 2004 I sat on the edge of my bed and I just began to weep
Mm.
because I'm like, I need to have closure. And I deleted his number off my phone. That was one of the hard things for me to do. And I got into a downward spiral of depression, of loneliness. I isolated myself from so many people. And I mean, anybody who comes to my apartment, I've got the blinds up and love the natural light. From August, September, October, the blinds were shut. I'd go to work, come home, kick off my shoes, and I just lay in bed. And then
Mm.
it'd get dark. And then I'd get up, change, just hop in bed, and go to sleep for the night.
Mm.
Night after night after night. Sundays, wake up early, go to church. Literally, RJ, I am sitting in front of thousands and thousands of people. I'm serving in one of the largest churches in the country that was based out here in Dallas. And no one knew what I was going through. In the midst of thousands of people, and I'm sitting there on stage, and like no one knows what I'm going through. And had the enemy had his way, RJ,
Mhm.
I would not be sitting here because it got to a point that I literally took my antidepressants out, took my sleeping pills out, put them on the counter in my bathroom. And I'm like this, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm looking at those pills. I'm like, and I would plead with God. I said, God, please. And I'm sobbing. God, I said, if there's any way that I can take a handful of these. I'm trying to bargain with God here.
Yeah.
That I said that I can take these and still make it to the other side and be with you.
Mm.
Times, RJ, that I would go to sleep, my pillow soaked in tears. I'm crying. I said, God, please, please just let me sleep tonight and not wake me up in the morning because I can't take life like this anymore. And I'm
Wow.
sitting on Sunday in front of thousands of people and they don't know what's going on throughout the week.
Mm.
And, and it got to a point that I had to confide in a trusted friend, college friend, a pastor, and he helped me out, and others helped me out. I surrounded myself with some people that helped me out,
Mhm.
did away with the medication. Little by little, God began to pull me out of that that horrible situation. It took work, and it took a while, but I'm so glad that the enemy didn't have his way because had he, my voice would have been silenced.
And I know we both give the Lord that credit for healing you and healing
Yes,
your
sir.
heart. But question for just people in general that are going through that hard season, the dark season. What did David do to help get himself out of that dark place?
I found somebody that I could confide in who wouldn't judge me,
Mhm.
and uh, and they helped me realize. I came to the realization, God, even in the midst of this crap that I'm going through,
Yeah.
you were with me.
Mm.
You were with me because you didn't allow the enemy to have his way.
Right.
And I this trusted pastor friend of mine that I owe so much to, but I also had a close circle of friends that's like, you know what, it's almost like not on our watch,
Mm.
you know,
I love that.
and very few people knew because I kept it silent. I didn't want people to know what I was going
That's the
through.
worst thing we can do.
Yeah.
Not just as men, but as people, that we suffer in silence
Oh yeah.
and that we break without anyone, right?
Well, during a season, and you say suffer in silence, that the Holy Spirit spoke to me was if we knowingly refuse to hold ourselves accountable to somebody, then we knowingly have chosen to suffer in silence.
Wow.
And it's because you're making the choice
Mhm.
to not hold yourself accountable, to not trust people, to not lean on people.
Mhm.
You're knowingly doing that. Okay, so in doing that, then you're knowingly suffering in silence, and we'd rather be there. And I don't know what it is with us. We'd rather suffer in silence than because it's a pride thing. I believe. I don't know.
Absolutely, it is.
It's
We don't want to appear to not have all of our stuff together. So I can't, it seems like some of our closest friends know the least about us when it's that time.
yes, sir.
Right. And so some of my strangers might know some of my issues, but my close circle, the people I text and call every single day, they don't even know what I'm struggling with. Right. And so I totally agree with you. We can't stay silent
Mm-mm.
in our hurting, because the Lord wants to move, but also the Lord puts people in our lives to help us get out of those situations. And I think the Lord loves us through people.
Yes.
So, yeah, man, thank you for that. I know that's going to help tons of people, and you are a blessing. And I know your heart is to help people either get out of those dark seasons or empower people to learn that they do have a voice.
Yes.
So,
And I'm willing to walk somebody through that journey.
oh, I know you are. Perfect. All right, everybody. It's one of our favorite times, tea time. This is where it's rapid fire. David will ask me a question. I'll ask him a question, but we do not know what the questions are until we draw it. So these are questions that you guys have sent in. Continue to send them in. But here we go. I will go first because I want to hear your answer. So here, let's go. I'll shuffle these a little bit.
I'm
All
in
right,
trouble now.
rapid fire. No guess or no thinking about it.
Okay.
Just whatever comes to your mind.
Okay. No.
Okay. Show up strong or stay low key.
Show up strong, bro.
Okay. Go for it. You asked me one.
Do it scared or wait till you're ready.
I stay ready. There's two things I tell people. I've never been to New York, and I've never been scared. So,
Okay.
all right, here we go. Talk it out or pray it out.
Ooh, sweet Jesus. That's all. I would say both.
You
but
can't
I would
say both.
I know, but it's like pray.
Pray it out.
Definitely.
Okay,
for sure.
cool.
All right. Save or spend?
What?
Save or spend? Wait,
Y'all know me. I spend, but I don't. It's not me. I have teenagers that are over there that spend my money. I picked them up today. Within 30 minutes, I'm down $30. So it's like, yeah, I'm a spender. So, all right. Early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings, for sure. Be the boss or behind the scenes?
I think y'all know that one. That's the end of Tea Time with David Poppy Martinez. Continue to send your questions in. We love this segment. Thanks again. All right, everybody. Y'all's favorite segment is up. Mic flip. This is a time where I, the host, turn into the guest, and I flip the mic to the guest for them to become the host, and they ask me any question that is on their mind for me to go public. So, David, it's time. The mic is yours. You ask me anything and nothing is off limits. I will ask because it's my time to go public. I
won't make it too difficult for you, okay?
Thank you.
But knowing what you know today in life, experiencing life, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
Ooh, um, it's okay to not be okay. At 21, I was not married yet. I was getting ready to get married. I felt the pressure of being married because I had at that time been with my partner for already 7 years. And I felt the pressure of, okay, at 21, you got to be married, you got to have all your stuff together. And I was really living my life based on everybody else's highlights. I was trying to keep up, keep up, keep up. And it put me in a situation where I started gambling because financially I didn't make that money. So I tried to gamble to make that money. I started doing things to compensate for my lack. And so I would tell my 21-year-old self, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to be steps behind your peers. So yeah.
That's
What
good.
else? What else?
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
One and done. Okay, I'll take it. David, it has been an honor to have you on here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I say this to you privately, but I want to also today say it publicly. You are a godsend, not only to my life, but to my kids' lives and just the men that we get to spiritual dad with. And I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for listening to the voice of the Lord and then responding, because your voice is important to not only my life, but to men's lives in general. And so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I love it.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so much for being on.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's a wrap for our episode with David Poppy Martinez. Continue to follow us on all socials at Going Public Podcast. And remember, subscribe, like, follow, and share. Thanks, everybody. Later.
Modes on the beat.